Chapter 995. Boom. Tianxia's head exploded, but not a single drop of blood could be seen. All the blood was minced into nothingness by the sword qi that contained the destruction sword intent. Not only that, the sword qi that had condensed into an explosive point not only destroyed Tianxia's head, but also his body. Only his 2 legs were not affected too much. Seeing that his sword had succeeded, Yichen hurriedly retreated, trying to recover his life force and Zhenyuan. This was his weakest moment. With his 2 legs as the foundation, Tianxia's body grew rapidly. Unforgivable. My head. Tianxia's eyes were bloodshot as if he had gone insane. Yi Chen's sword had annihilated nearly 70% of his evil power. However, because the sword had directly exploded inside his skull, the berserk destruction sword intent had invaded his sea of soul, causing his soul to suffer severe cuts. It should be known that the soul and the body were inseparable. If the body was intact, this bit of destruction sword intent wouldn't have been able to injure his muscles and bones. But now, the sword had pierced through his forehead and exploded inside his skull. The destructive power was unimaginable. Under the condition of having a splitting headache, Tianxia's mind was already a bit crazy. His body was filled with a malicious and ominous aura. Go die! Ignoring the fine sword qi that had spread from his legs to his whole body, Tianxia's body leaned forward, pouncing towards Yichen. His hands formed into claws, and the sharp black qi made his hands look like ghost claws. Yichen ignored it. A huge black sword shot out from underground, welcoming Tianxia's attack. Unknowingly, Yichen had already used the iron blood silver blue sword to perform the Earth Fiend sword art, absorbing enough Earth Yuan evil qi from underground. Now that he couldn't move his body, he used the Earth Fiend sword to block Tianxia. Ding, ding, ding. Sparks flew everywhere as one man and one sword fought fiercely. Yichen was like a statue, his aura surging. You want to seal me? That's impossible. Inside the heaven and earth demon subduing formation, the Yin Wind demonic emperor was getting stronger and stronger. Relying on the evil altar, he didn't need to worry about exhausting his evil power. Boom boom boom. With the power of a single person, he was able to block 80% of the dense fog, unable to advance even an inch. The Demon Flower Emperor had already exhausted all of his strength. Because he had absorbed too much evil power, the Demon Flower Emperor had nowhere to vent it. He swung his hands continuously, and magic balls of light bombarded the dense fog one after another. The violent shockwaves blew away a lot of the dense fog. Little Sister Yan's hair. The Demon Flower Emperor noticed that 1/10 of Xuanho's hair had turned white. This meant that 1/10 of her life force had already been consumed, which was 100 years. Although she had consumed a lot of blood essence and lost a lot of life force, it was only a loss of blood essence and not a direct loss of life force. She could still make up for it by spending a few decades. Could this be the backlash of the rules? The Demon Flower Emperor guessed. For the upcoming calamity of the foreign races, Xianhou had made a lot of preparations. The Heaven and Earth Demon subduing formation was one of the trump cards that she had prepared for the foreign races' calamity. As a trump card, the Heaven and Earth Demon subduing formation was not an ordinary formation, but a sealing formation. Once it was used to the extreme, it would begin to interfere with the operation of the rules. Therefore, it would inevitably suffer the backlash of the rules. Originally, although the Yin Wind demonic emperor was powerful, he wouldn't have failed after paying such a huge price. She didn't expect that the evil altar could actually absorb the evil power from the outside world through the Heaven and Earth Demon subduing formation and transform it into its own evil power. In this way, as long as the evil power was not exhausted, the Heaven and Earth Demon subduing formation would not be able to use its full power. I'm afraid I don't even have a 20% chance of success. Xianhou was now riding a tiger and it was hard to get off, but she wasn't too surprised. Before this, she only had a 50% chance of success. After all, this was the first time she used the Heaven and Earth Demon subduing formation. The sealing formation will only make me stronger and stronger. In the colorful flowing light, the blade light crisscrossed, and the Yin Wind demonic emperor laughed wildly. As he continued to swing the blade, he could feel that he and the true Water Emperor's body were becoming more and more compatible, and there was a trend of spirit and body becoming one. Previously, when he swung the blade, at least 30% of the power was lost, but now he could exert 80%. When he swung the blade, the sharp blade light could almost cut the sky and split the earth. Of course, with his current strength, there was still no way to get out of the trap, but he believed that when his strength improved step by step, tearing the formation was only a matter of time. The Earth Origin Evil Chi on the Earth Fiend Giant Sword was getting thinner and thinner. At the beginning, he could still fight with Tianxia, but later, every time they exchanged blows, he would be sent flying, and the sword would cry. After calming down the boiling true essence, the silver vertical eye between Yi Chen's eyebrows opened, and suddenly a silver beam of light shot out. Tianxia screamed, and blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. Before his soul was injured, he was not afraid of this soul attack, but now it was undoubtedly one disaster after another. Primordial Spirit Lock Kill. With a spurt of energy, Yi Chen continued to use the Primordial Spirit Lock Kill that he learned from Yuan Emperor. A blurry golden light flickered, and a sharp golden halo instantly sank into Tianxia's eyebrows. In Tianxia's soul sea, a boundless huge golden halo wrapped around it and was fiercely cutting it. The pain coming from the depths of his soul made Tianxia howl uncontrollably. Evil Spirit Guard. Tianxia hurriedly used a soul defense secret art. Boom! Within his soul sea, waves surged as a gigantic nefarious devil appeared. This nefarious devil was condensed from soul power. With a push of its hands, it grabbed onto one side of the golden light ring. Then, its body enlarged, and so did its arms, causing the golden light ring to expand, preventing it from cutting into his soul sea. It's over. As Tianxia used the soul defense secret art, Yi Chen held the Sky Scorpio sword with both of his hands and slashed vertically. A dark green sword light flashed on Tianxia's body. Crackle! Like a dead tree in winter being struck by lightning, Tianxia's body suddenly ignited, and the raging dark green flame reached dozens of meters high. Some evil chi that wanted to escape were licked by the flame and turned into ashes, disappearing without a trace. This was the destructive flame formed by the fusion of water and fire. Just a trace of it was enough to destroy a mountain. Being licked by the flame, people like the yellow-robed old monster would probably die immediately, not to mention the remaining evil chi. I'm not willing. Tianxia let out a miserable shriek, but his voice came to an abrupt stop. At this point, a giant of Evil Spirit Clan was completely killed by Yi Chen. It could be said that he was wronged but not wronged. In Elysium, his realm was suppressed. Originally, he was at the 6th layer of life and death realm, but here, he could only display the strength of the 4th layer. Moreover, he wasn't completely familiar with Nirvana Demon Emperor's body, so he could only display 70 to 80% of his strength. In fact, he wasn't wronged because Yi Chen's Destruction Sword Intent specialized in restraining Evil Spirit Clan. Since ancient times, there had been a few unparalleled characters who comprehended the Destruction Sword Intent or Destruction Will. In that era, the number of sealed alien race experts were few, and they were all exterminated. However, Destruction Will was not so easy to comprehend. Sometimes it depended on luck. No matter how talented one was, if one wasn't suitable for Destruction Will, one would most likely fail to comprehend it. This had nothing to do with strength. On the other side, Xianhou was still trying her best to suppress Wind Demonic Emperor. The white hair on her head was slowly growing from 1/10 to 1/5, consuming an astonishing amount of vitality. Senior Yen, what's going on? Before, Yi Chen had already sensed the change in the situation, but he didn't have the time to ask. Mysterious Queen's complexion paled as she said, "The Wind Demonic Emperor summoned an evil sacrificial altar that can absorb the evil energy from the outside world to replenish himself. Your sword chi has also been burned to ashes by the evil flames he spewed out from the altar. Right now, his strength is constantly increasing and has already surpassed the time when he fought with you. I think this array can be used by 8 people at the same time. You and I can deal with him together." With Yuan Emperor as his backing, even if Yichen couldn't comprehend the Cosmos Demon's subduing array for the time being, he should be able to cooperate with Xianhou. No, if it was before, you could temporarily join in. But now, there are too many changes in the Cosmos Demon's subduing array. If you rashly join in, it will only reveal a flaw, giving the enemy a chance to take advantage of it. The only thing we can do now is to disperse the surrounding fog, preventing him from absorbing the evil power. At that time, we should be able to seal him by paying a small price. The Demon Flower Emperor could only block 80% of the fog. The remaining 20% was more than enough for the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor. As long as Yichen blocked this 20% of the fog, the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor's evil power would decrease with each use, becoming weaker and weaker. Of course, she would probably consume 2/3 of her lifespan. Looking at the fog, Yichen said, "I have a method, but I've never used it before. Let's give it a try." The Cosmos Demon's subduing array was a huge burden to Xianhou. When Yichen saw more and more white hairs on her head, he felt a stabbing pain in his heart. Using Instant of Glory might seem to consume a lot of vitality, but it wasn't much. Each time he used it, it was about 10 to 20 years of lifespan. After all, Instant of Glory only caused space to freeze for a moment. Using it twice in a row, Yichen consumed less than 40 years of lifespan. Compared to his 1,000 years of lifespan, it wasn't worth mentioning. However, Xianhou had already consumed more than 100 years of lifespan. The price she paid was the greatest. If she really wanted to suppress the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor alone, it would be impossible without paying 600 to 700 years of lifespan. Martial Dao Yuan Spirit, Peer. With a solemn expression, Yi Chen's spirit, qi, and spirit were highly concentrated. His eyes stared at the space between his eyebrows. Buzz. In the next moment, a figure emitting a faint white radiance walked out of Yi Chen's body. This figure looked exactly the same as Yi Chen. Even the aura was the same. However, its entire body was blossoming with a layer of immortal holy light, making it seem like a man of light. Apart from this man of light had a sharp aura, as if a peerless sword had been unsheathed. If Yi Chen's body was the scabbard, then this man of light was the sword. Martial Dao Yuan Spirit. Xianhou and Demon Flower Emperor couldn't help but look over. Martial Dao Yuan Spirit was the combination of will and Zhen Yuan. At Life and Death Realm, everyone had one. However, it was usually very weak and couldn't leave the body. Under normal circumstances, at Yi Chen's level, it was impossible for the Martial Dao Yuan Spirit to leave the body. Once it did, the Martial Dao Yuan Spirit would be equivalent to another Yi Chen, with no difference in strength. Chapter 996. Once the Martial Dao Yuan Shen appeared, Yi Chen's body was like a statue, motionless. Apart from the fluctuations of life, there was no aura to speak of, as if all the essence had been taken away by the Martial Dao Yuan Shen. And the Martial Dao Yuan Shen, which was the glowing Yi Chen, flashed, actually passed through the outer wall of the array, and directly entered the chaotic universe devil subduing array. The multicolored light could not obstruct the glowing Yi Chen, and soon, the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor, who was stepping on the evil altar, entered his sight. Without any nonsense, Yi Chen stretched out his right hand, and a glowing sword took shape, piercing towards the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor. The sword tip burst with light, incomparably dazzling. Momentary glory. No! The Yin Wind Demonic Emperor's eyes widened. How could he not see that this was Yi Chen's Martial Dao Yuan Shen? The Martial Dao Yuan Shen had the attribute of surpassing space, between substance and nothingness, but the power it burst out was absolutely the limit of the body, without a trace of illusion. Moreover, the Martial Dao Yuan Shen had one more advantage than the body, and that was, it was not limited by the body, and could display the martial arts mastered to an extremely perfect level. The multicolored light came to a standstill, and the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor's expression froze. The sword, which carried Yi Chen's will, slowly and firmly pierced into the opponent's forehead. Boom! A blazing white light burst out, and countless sword qi intertwined. The Yin Wind Demonic Emperor's body suddenly disappeared by a third. He was much stronger than Tian Xie, so it was impossible for Yi Chen's sword to annihilate the majority of his evil force. Even so, the sword piercing into the forehead and the sword chi were incomparable. His soul chi was affected, and the sword chi wreaked havoc. His flesh and blood squirmed, and the Yin Wind demonic emperor once again condensed into a human body. However, what awaited him was another momentary glory. The martial Dao Yuan spirit's momentary brilliance was all born by the main body, so it could be used consecutively. In the outside world, Yi Chen was bleeding from his 7 orifices, and his face was much paler. The first momentary brilliance annihilated 1/3 of the Yin Wind demonic emperor's evil power, and the second momentary brilliance annihilated a full 50% of the Yin Wind demonic emperor's evil power. This was not because the second momentary brilliance was more powerful, but because after receiving the first momentary brilliance, the Yin Wind demonic emperor was already in a weakened state, and when receiving the second sword strike in a weakened state, the damage was naturally greater than the first. Bastard, go to hell! The more desperate the situation, the more it stimulated the Yin Wind demonic emperor's ferocious and evil nature. The space between his eyebrows was glowing, as if there was a gray sun there. Buzz! A Yin Wind demonic emperor emitting a gray light walked out of his body. This was the Yin Wind demonic emperor's evil Dao Yuan spirit. As a 7th layer life and death demonic emperor, although his realm was suppressed by 2 layers and he had just escaped from the blood-colored seal, it didn't hinder his Yuan spirit from leaving his body for the final battle. The third momentary brilliance was unleashed, and Yi Chen's martial Dao Yuan spirit became much more illusory. However, this time, the Yin Wind demonic emperor's evil Dao Yuan spirit didn't suffer too much of a restriction, and its blades slashed out. Blazing sparks burst forth, multicolored streamers surged up like waves, and the aftermath bombarded the main body of the Yin Wind demonic emperor on the evil sacrificial altar. However, that evil sacrificial altar was not an ordinary treasure. The 4 evil devil heads spurted out extremely pure evil power, which formed a protective shield and barely protected its main body. The reason why the Yin Wind demonic emperor didn't let his evil Dao Yuan spirit attack before was mainly because his main body was too weak. Once the evil Dao Yuan spirit left his body, his main body would lose all ability to protect itself. Once his main body died, his evil Dao Yuan spirit would instantly dissipate. Therefore, he didn't dare to take risks, and would rather fight steadily. Yin Wind 6 Arts, 5th form, Berserk Evil splits the heavens. Without the restriction of his physical body, the Yin Wind demonic emperor's saber arts were much more refined. A domineering saber light tore through the multicolored light. Along the way, it rapidly split apart. Over 100 smaller saber lights crazily shot at Yi Chen. The 4th momentary brilliance was unleashed, and all the saber lights were frozen in place. Unless the Yin Wind demonic emperor's evil Dao Yuan spirit fought him in close combat, it would be impossible for it to break through his defenses. The Yin Wind demonic emperor was just about to charge forward when he suddenly let out a cry. Looking back, he saw that his main body, which was protected by the evil energy, was covered in blood. Occasionally, sword chi would break through his body. Yi Chen's 2 momentary brilliance had not only destroyed the majority of the Yin Wind demonic emperor's evil energy, but it had also left behind a large amount of sword chi in his body. Once his evil Dao Yuan spirit had appeared, the Yin Wind demonic emperor's main body had essentially lost its backbone. How could he possibly suppress the sword chi in his body? The Yin Wind demonic emperor's evil Dao Yuan spirit transformed into a ray of light that returned to his main body. It should be about time. Yi Chen's body was quite transparent, as if it was condensed from a ball of light. Turning around, Yi Chen passed through the outer wall of the array and turned into a ray of light that returned to his main body. Spurting out a mouthful of blood, Yi Chen struggled to say, "He only has a little more than 10% of his evil energy left, and there is double the sword chi left in his body. I can fully suppress the seal now." As he spoke, Yi Chen spurted out another 3 mouthfuls of blood. Using the momentary brilliance 4 times in a row had almost reached the limit of his main body's endurance. If he used it again, he couldn't guarantee that there would be any side effects. For a moment, he felt the world spinning around him. He hurriedly sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes to adjust his breathing. Nothing inside the heaven and earth demon subduing array could hide from Xuanho's senses. As soon as Yi Chen's martial Dao Yuan spirit came out, she activated the array with all her strength. In an instant, the array's interior space underwent dozens of changes, and each change would cause the evil altar's protective barrier to slightly distort. The protective barrier twisted to the limit and burst like a bubble. The Yin Wen demonic emperor only had time to swing his blade once before he was completely submerged by the multicolored light. I will break free again. His voice became smaller and smaller until it was almost inaudible. Rumble. In the outside world, the chaotic heaven and earth demons subduing array slowly sank into the ground. At the same time, the surrounding 8 stones engraved with runes also sank. When the ground became flat again, a circle of multicolored runes lit up. Following that, the light became dimmer and dimmer, turning into a multicolored metal-like brand. Did I succeed? The demon flower emperor stopped absorbing the evil energy, his fragrant sweat dripping down. Being sealed again, even if the Yin Wen demonic emperor breaks free, his strength will be weakened to a new low. However, a demonic emperor-level character is indeed powerful. If I didn't use the heaven and earth demon subduing array to trap him, it would be impossible to kill him. He could have easily escaped. Xianhou could tell that using Instant of Glory 4 times was already Yi Chen's limit. If he forcefully used it for the 5th time, his martial Yuan spirit, which was not yet condensed, might suffer irreparable damage, causing him to lose his memory or even lose his mind. As she spoke, Xuanho's white hair turned black at a visible speed. At life and death realm, one's appearance would change very slowly. It would not be an exaggeration to say that decades were like one day. The reason why one's hair turned white was because one's vitality was being drained too quickly. When one's vitality stopped draining, everything would return to its original state. Of course, this was under the condition that one's vitality wasn't consumed too much. Once one lost more than 4/5 of their vitality, their hair turning white would be irreversible. In any case, our mission this time is basically a success. The Demon Flower Emperor smiled. Xianhou nodded and looked at Yi Chen, who was meditating with his eyes closed. After a cup of tea's worth of time, Yi Chen slowly opened his eyes and faintly smiled. "Seniors, you've worked hard. Are you all right?" The Demon Flower Emperor asked. "Apart from some minor aftereffects, I'm fine." At this level, it was impossible for the Yuan Shen of martial arts to leave the body without any side effects. He could clearly feel that his level of swordsmanship had dropped. The swordless heart required instincts, and the key to instincts was to unify the spirit and body. After the Yuan Shen of martial arts returned, he felt a little strange about his own body, as if he had been possessed. Of course, it was just a metaphor and it was not that serious. He should be able to recover after some time. Xianhou sighed. "I didn't expect you to be able to let your Yuan spirit leave your body. This is an ability that can only be obtained when one's martial will reaches the 8th step realm. When Yuan's spirit left the body, the most important thing was the martial will. The higher the martial will, the more powerful the Yuan spirit would be. This kind of power was not in terms of strength, but rather the condensation of the Yuan spirit." "Yeah, how did you do it?" The Demon Flower Emperor was a bit curious. Yi Chen honestly said, "I cultivate a Yuan spirit secret art that can strengthen the Yuan spirit in advance." Yuan spirit secret arts didn't only include soul secret arts, but also things that could temper the will and soul. To be honest, Yuan spirit didn't have much effect on a person's strength. It could be said that it didn't have much of an effect on a person's strength. Yuan spirit only had 2 uses. One was to ignore most barriers and travel freely. The second was that after the body died, the Yuan spirit wouldn't dissipate for a short period of time. At that time, it could heavily injure the enemy or even kill the enemy at the crucial moment. But after that, it would still die. The Yuan spirit of martial Dao could not survive without the body. The body was the weakness of the Yuan spirit of martial Dao. Therefore, when 2 sides were fighting, using the Yuan spirit of martial Dao to fight the enemy was a suicidal action. The enemy could completely destroy your body, leaving you with nowhere to go. You would be like a soul without a body, homeless. Therefore, Yuan's spirit could only be used to deal with some unexpected situations. For example, the situation where one couldn't enter with their body and could only enter with their Yuan spirit. But even so, Yuan's spirit still had some auxiliary functions. The more condensed the Yuan spirit was, the stronger the control over one's body would be, and the more exquisite the martial arts would be. So that's how it is. The Demon Flower Emperor faintly nodded. We can't stay here for long. Let's return to True Spirit Continent first. Xianhou suggested. All right, let's go. The three had some internal injuries, and their condition wasn't 80% of their peak. If they encountered a powerful enemy, it would be extremely dangerous. Leaving the True Water Palace, the three headed toward True Spirit Continent. Chapter 997. Just when Yi Chen's group of three sealed the Yin Wen demonic emperor once again, in the depths of the void, in a certain dilapidated plain space, an extremely formidable mana fluctuation spread out. This mana fluctuation was cold and overbearing. Anyone who was affected by it couldn't help but shiver. They felt cold from the inside out, as if something unclean had entered their body. What a formidable curse power! Although Lord Curse is not in his peak state, he isn't as weak as we imagined. The woman with a pair of bat wings on her back said. The tall, dark-skinned man said, when we arrived, the seal had already been greatly eroded by Lord Curse's curse power. Even if we didn't appear, Lord Curse would still be able to break the seal within 3 to 5 years and escape. Lord Curse is coming out. The one who spoke was the man with a long horn on his head. He had once joined hands with the Netherworld Demon King to hunt down Yi Chen. Hearing this, the few people looked towards the center of the mana fluctuation. In the center of the mana fluctuation, a person slowly rose. This person had withered yellow hair, an extremely ugly face, and a very deformed figure. There were also very ugly people in the human race, but compared to this strange person, they undoubtedly paled in comparison. This person was ugly and ominous. Just a glance at him would make one's hair stand on end and make one unable to sleep at night. In other words, this person was not only ugly, but also the temperament he emitted was even uglier. The woman with bat wings said, rumor has it that Lord Curse is a famous handsome man among us demons. However, during one of his expeditions, he obtained a cursed demon sword. From then on, not only did his mana change into curse power, but he also seemed to be cursed. The stronger he is, the uglier his appearance. Although Lord Curse's escape is a good thing for us, you should be careful. Because Lord Curse's appearance changed greatly, many of his confidants left him. In a fit of anger, he humiliated them in every possible way and tortured them to death. From then on, he even took pleasure in humiliating beauties. Later, because he accidentally killed the granddaughter of Lord Demon Emperor, although that Demon Emperor was in the same realm as him, he was several times stronger than him. Lord Demon Emperor chased after him, and as a last resort, he was forced to come to Elysium. The dark-skinned tall man reminded the woman. He was the leader of the group, called Blackstone. I know. After saying that, the woman's appearance changed and turned into an ordinary woman. So you practice the muscle-changing transformation technique? I feel relieved. Blackstone nodded. I, cursed Demon Emperor, have finally escaped. You guys, did you bring me any beauties? With a swoosh, the figure of the ugly man appeared in front of the three of them like a phantom. A fishy smell assaulted their nostrils, mixed with terrifying illusions. The three of them were shocked and hurriedly bowed. Blackstone said, Welcome back, Lord Curse. Don't worry, Lord Curse, we have already prepared a human queen for you in the palace. I guarantee that you will be satisfied. Good, you guys are really considerate. Hearing this, the cursed Demon Emperor's eyes flashed with a cruel light of lust. Lord Curse, we shouldn't stay here for long. Let's go back to the palace first, Blackstone suggested. No rush. The cursed Demon Emperor waved his hand. Let me summon my cursed demon sword back first. Cursed demon sword. The three of them felt their hearts go numb. The cursed demon sword was a demon sword with a curse. Although it was powerful, It was too evil. The cursed demon emperor had become like this because of the cursed demon sword. Both of his hands quickly formed a seal. The cursed demon emperor spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. A mournful and eerie howl sounded. A gray skull wrapped in blood streaked across the air and disappeared. Chu family of Windy Nation, Pan Shan Island. Rumble. The entire Pan Shan Island shook violently. Huge cracks appeared on the island. From the cracks, endless horrifying aura gushed out. Some of the Chu family members were just slightly touched by the aura. Their appearances immediately changed, becoming extremely ugly. Their eyes shone with a strange and violent blood-red light as they pounced on their own clansmen. For a moment, the Chu family's blood flowed like a river. What kind of sin did our Chu family commit? The Chu family elders cried as they watched their clansmen die one by one. Family leader, be careful. Seeing the countless ugly clansmen with strange aura pouncing over, a young figure stood in front of the Chu family leader. It was Chu Ming. Swoosh, swoosh. Those incoming clansmen were blown away by the finger power one by one. They fell on the ground one by one, unable to get up. However, they did not die. Back when Yi Chen was still a disciple of the Sky Cloud Martial School, Chu Ming was a disciple of the Emerald Martial School. The two had accepted the same mission and fought side by side. Although Chu Ming was far from Yi Chen's level, he was still a normal genius. After so many years, he had already cultivated to the early Sea of Souls realm. Bang! All of a sudden, a huge gray-black demon sword broke out of the mountain. After circling once in the air, it shot into the depths of the void. Because of its extreme speed, no one could detect it. I'm back. The cursed demon emperor waved his hand, and a gray-black demon sword with a horrifying aura appeared in his hand. This demon sword was wrapped in a layer of turbid qi. Vaguely, countless screams could be heard coming from within the turbid qi. Black Stone and the other two glanced at it, and they immediately started sweating profusely. Their minds were in chaos. Worthy of being the cursed demon sword. There is no damage at all. The cursed demon emperor knew very well that the cursed demon sword had been in his hands when he had been sealed. However, the cursed demon sword had somehow broken through the seal. If not for the fact that his mind was connected to the cursed demon sword, it would have taken him a lot of effort to find it. Lord Fear, congratulations on your return. On the 5th day after Blackstone and the other two unsealed the cursed demon emperor, Nine Nether and a few other demons also unsealed the Lord of Fear, whose strength was not inferior to the cursed demon emperor's. If the title of the cursed demon emperor came from the cursed demon sword, then the title of the Lord of Fear came from his terrifying and cruel style. Before coming to Elysium, the Lord of Fear had a planet. It was said that his palace on that planet was built entirely from the bones and flesh of his enemies. He drank fresh blood and ate raw flesh every day. He liked to cook the internal organs of his enemies. Almost none of his enemies had a good ending. Just like the cursed demon emperor, the Lord of Fear had also been sent to Elysium because he had offended a high-level demons. I want to eat people. Arrange it for me. The image of the Lord of Fear was still considered normal, but his eyes clearly had the luster of a ferocious beast. Nine Nether laughed bitterly in his heart. Others said that he was a crazy person, but compared to the Lord of Fear, he was just a mischievous troublemaker occasionally. This was the first time he had seen the Lord of Fear in person. The terrifying aura of the Lord of Fear that regarded any flesh and blood as food brought him great pressure. He could not guarantee that if he rejected the Lord of Fear would eat him alive. I have prepared a demon king and a human king. They are just waiting for Lord Fear to enjoy them. Nine Nether said respectfully. Well done. I was planning to eat you to restore my vitality. The Lord of Fear nodded calmly, but what he said made Nine Nether's hair stand on end. Fallout Sword Sect. Lingyun Peak. Xianhou and Yi Chen stood side by side, watching the surging clouds. 2 years have passed in the blink of an eye. In these 2 years, more than 50 people have become life and death kings. This can be considered a happy occasion. At this moment, Xuanhou's aura was much more powerful than when she fought the Yin Wind demonic emperor 2 years ago. Purely in terms of cultivation base, she had already reached the level of 2,000 years. However, if someone were to know that her cultivation base was at the peak of the first layer of life and death realm, they would be dumbfounded. Under ordinary circumstances, only one person could cultivate to the first layer of life and death realm in Elysium. And in this era, including Yi Chen, there were two. The reason why Xianhou could obtain the true cultivation method of life and death realm was not because of Yi Chen, but because of the titled King Palace's palace spirit's approval. Only by obtaining the palace spirit's approval could one have a high chance of successfully breaking through. Those who couldn't obtain its approval would most likely turn into ashes and cease to exist. After all, the palace spirit's insight was not something ordinary people could compare to. But this means that the great calamity of the foreign races will erupt at any time, right? Yi Chen nodded as the mountain breeze fluttered his long hair. In these 2 years, the majority of the peak geniuses who had competed with him had entered life and death realm. Among the 50 people, the majority were from the younger generation, such as Du Guju, Dan Tai Mingyue, Luo Tiandu, Chu Zhongtian, Yan Fengfeng, Jiang Tian, Xia Hozuan, Bai Wuxue, Xiao Chuha, and Lu Xiaoyu. As for the peak geniuses of Blood Sky Continent and Sky Sword Continent, as long as they were continent-level geniuses, they had all entered life and death realm. Those geniuses who had competed with Yi Chen earlier, such as Edict Prince Li Xiaoyun and Jing Aoshuan, had also entered the first layer, second layer, or third layer of life and death chamber, only a step away from life and death realm. 2 years ago, apart from Yi Chen, only Marquis Sword Star, Marquis Sword Snow, and Murong Qingxing had entered life and death realm. Among these geniuses, some were still insignificant, merely equivalent to ordinary mid- and high-step kings. Only a few had the strength of peak kings. However, there were also some fierce geniuses. Among them, Marquis Sword Snow, Du Guju, Dan Tai Mingyue, Chu Zhongtian, and a few others were undoubtedly the representatives. Marquis Sword Snow was needless to say. Under life and death realm, apart from Su Jing, only this person could pose a slight threat to Yi Chen. In Du Guju's case, he was a genius who grew stronger by meeting strong opponents. In the beginning, he wasn't particularly eye-catching in Elysium, but each time, he would make great progress. His potential was limitless. Among so many geniuses, apart from Yi Chen, Dan Tai Mingyue was the only one proficient in Space Profound. She was low-key, but her strength was formidable. Chu Zhongtian, on the other hand, had completely relied on his talent. His evil spirit body had brought him too many benefits. Without any exaggeration, after entering the life and death realm, his evil Yuan's might was much more powerful than Mysterious Queen's, who had reached the peak of the first sky of life and death realm. Even Yi Chen, who had already reached the peak of the second sky of life and death realm, could not guarantee that his Zhen Yuan's purity could rival Chu Zhongtian's. Chapter 998. Of course, compared to these four, Murong Qingxing and Su Jing were not the slightest bit inferior. In fact, Su Jing was even above them. This was not a blind guess of Yi Chen's. From Demon Flower Emperor, Yi Chen learned that Murong Qingxing's strength had already reached the level of titled monarchs of Elysium. Moreover, she was not an ordinary titled monarch. The reason why her strength had advanced so rapidly was because Murong Qingxing had inherited an extremely noble bloodline of demons. This bloodline was called the Dark Demoness bloodline. However, this bloodline was too powerful, so powerful that it could corrode one's soul and mind. After all, Murong Qingxing was not a pure demons, but a demonic human. Therefore, she had been trying her best to tame the Dark Demoness bloodline and strengthen herself in the process, preparing for the great calamity of the foreign races. As for Su Jing, her strength could be guessed even with her toes. It should be known that in Elysium, she was the only one with a complete dragon bloodline. As for how powerful a dragon was, it was impossible to guess. One could only know that it was a demonic beast that stood above all other beasts. Their aptitudes had reached the supreme grade, and they did not need to cultivate bitterly. After reaching adulthood, they could become demonic kings. As for how powerful a demonic king-level dragon was, one could only know after seeing it with their own eyes. In any case, the more powerful experts appeared in Elysium, the happier Yi Chen would be. Yi Chen was not sure about the others, but he was sure that these 6 were the main force. In order to make them stronger, Yichen had even given the Zhenyuan crystals produced by the Devouring Island to Marquis Sword Snow, Duguju, Dantai Mingyue, and Chu Zhongtian. After all, he had already reached the peak of the second layer of life and death realm, and did not need Zhenyuan crystals to increase his cultivation base. Murong Qingqing cultivated demonic power, and Su Jing cultivated dragon power. Neither did she need Zhenyuan crystals. The 4 did not refuse. This was not the time to be soft-hearted. Increasing their strength was the most important thing. We're increasing our strength, and so are those foreign races. What worries me the most is the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor. A trace of worry appeared on Xuanho's face. Yin Wind Demonic Emperor was a 7th-layer Demonic Emperor-level character. Even if he were to be suppressed by 2 layers in Elysium, he would still be at the 5th layer. Such characters would be extremely frightening if they were allowed to recover from their weakened state. It should be known that the 5th layer corresponded to 7-star strength. In this era, Elysium did not have 7-star strength. Even Yichen. In a few short years, they won't be able to recover to their peak. But it is indeed worrying. Yichen let out a light breath. His strength had already reached a limit, and he could not increase it any further. In terms of cultivation base, he was at the peak of the 2nd layer. If he continued to increase it, he might explode and perish. Therefore, he could not be anxious. In terms of sword will, his Destruction Sword Intent and Immortal Sword Intent had both reached the peak of the 6th step due to their resonance, only a step away from the 7th step. However, the higher one's sword will went, the harder it would be to increase it. Not to mention, it was an Attribute Sword Intent, which might take dozens of years to reach. As for sword domain, Yichen had already reached the peak of the 3rd layer because he had been to the sword world many times. Later on, no matter how hard he tried, he could not increase it by even half a step. Fortunately, it was not a waste of time. Thousands of sword arts had appeared in his mind. Although he could not comprehend them all, they would become Yichen's foundation. In terms of sword arts, Momentary Brilliance was the strongest. No matter how he improved the other sword arts, they could not surpass it. Therefore, his strength nearing 7-star had already been calculated. Before going to the titled King Palace, Yichen had the battle strength of a 5-star tyrant, and his life and death realm had reached the peak of the 1st layer. Combined with Momentary Brilliance, he had the battle strength of a mid-6-star tyrant. The peak of the 2nd layer and the peak of the 3rd layer of sword domain barely gave Yichen the battle strength of a 6-star tyrant. As for spirit body, Yichen's spirit body had also reached the late 5th step. In Bloodlight Ocean, Yichen had found a blood crystal flower and killed 2 blood demon emperors, obtaining their blood demon crystals. His spirit body had advanced from the early 5th step to the late 5th step, and his physical body's defense had reached a whole new level. Unfortunately, the strength of the spirit body had nothing to do with strength. It only had endurance. Let's not talk about this. When it's time, it will come. How is the forging of your sword? Xianhou shook her head and changed the topic. Speaking of the sword, Yichen's face revealed a trace of rarely seen excitement. If nothing unexpected happens, it will be completed in half a month. The sword the two were talking about was neither a semi-extreme grade sword nor a pseudo-extreme grade sword, but a genuine extreme grade sword. Although he didn't know the final grade of the sword, Yichen estimated that it would be at least at the peak of mid-supreme grade. As for the Sky Scorpio sword, before its crystal power was exhausted, it was merely mid-supreme grade. In order to forge an extreme grade sword, Yichen had failed 19 times in total, using up hundreds of extreme grade materials. If he hadn't been collecting extreme grade materials in the recent years and inherited a batch of them from Fire Emperor, as well as some gifted to him by Xianhou, Demon Flower Emperor, and Spirit Pill King, he wouldn't have had so many extreme grade materials to consume. The difficulty of forging an extreme grade sword was no less than breaking through to life and death realm. Fortunately, although he had failed 19 times, apart from 10 sword embryos exploding, the other 9 times had produced defective swords, which were pseudo-extreme grade swords. Of the 9 pseudo-extreme grade swords, Yichen kept 3 for himself and gave the other 6 to Xianhou, Demon Flower Emperor, and Spirit Pill King as compensation. After forging the 20th extreme grade sword, Yi Chen's sword forging arts had reached a comprehensive level. Originally, he would have been satisfied with forging an ordinary extreme grade sword. The Sky Scorpio sword could be used for the defensive sword art, while this sword could be used for battle. However, he didn't expect that the incomplete extreme grade sword would release such a powerful might, surpassing the low-grade extreme grade. Therefore, Yi Chen wasn't in a hurry to complete it. Instead, he placed it at the center of the 99 Origin Return Grade Array, allowing it to absorb a large amount of spiritual qi and refine the sword's body. At the same time, he drew in the essence of the Earth Fiend True Fire to refine the fine impurities within. In the blink of an eye, several days had passed. Behind the Spirit Cloud Peak was a fiery red mountain peak that was releasing boundless heat. This was the place Yi Chen used to forge swords, and was called the Sword Forging Peak. In the depths of the Sword Forging Peak, he had arranged an Earth Fiend True Fire Great Array. This great array could absorb the Earth Fiend True Fire in the depths of the ground and use the power of the array to remove the false and retain the true, condensing the Earth Fiend True Fire essence. The temperature of this Earth Fiend True Fire essence was extremely shocking. Ordinary metal materials would be turned into ashes in less than a breath's time. Only extreme-grade materials could endure it, but they would also melt very quickly. At this moment, in the underground cave of the Sword Forging Peak, a sword that was about to take shape was dancing up and down. Its sharp sword qi could cut through everything in this world. Once this sword is born, my power will increase by quite a bit. I'll use it to kill all the alien race warriors invading Elysium. On the side, Yi Chen's eyes were cold and serious. The sword was used to kill people. The more people it killed, the stronger the killing intent would be, and the sharper the sword would be. Every strand of qi would have the power to cut souls. Using this sword to kill alien race warriors was undoubtedly the best way to sacrifice it. Walking out of the Sword Forging Peak, Yi Chen arrived at the Spirit Cloud Peak. On the peak, there were 6 youngsters training their sword skills. They were Yi Xian, Yi Xiaoxiao, and Yi Chen's 4 disciples. In the blink of an eye, a couple of years had passed. Some of them were already 20 years old, and some were nearing that age. Their growth was astonishing, especially the 4th disciple, Leng Xinghan. He was the strongest among the 6. Although he was only at the mid-astral reaching realm, his power was enough to compete with some famous Sea of Souls realm warriors. Master! Big brother! Seeing Yi Chen's arrival, everyone stopped their sparring. Faintly nodding, Yi Chen said, "I'm very satisfied with your progress. Unfortunately, I didn't give you much time. If you had a few more years, you might have reached the Sea of Souls realm." The great calamity of the foreign races would not only be a battle between life and death realm warriors, but also between Sea of Souls realm warriors. For example, in the parallel space battlefield where the Demon King was sealed, apart from the skeletons of life and death realm warriors, there were also Sea of Souls realm warriors and even astral reaching realm warriors. The alien race disaster was not only a disaster for the warriors of Elysium, but it was also a very dangerous opportunity. Once they got through it, they would definitely have a huge improvement. They might even be able to break through their limits and reach a realm that they had never been able to reach before. However, the condition was that they had to survive. Therefore, Yi Chen did not plan to let his top 4 disciples and siblings hide in the Falling Dust Sword School and survive with the Great Protective Spell. When it was necessary, they would have to join the battle and fight against the astral-reaching realm warriors of the alien races. But he also knew that although astral-reaching realm warriors were not as powerful as life and death realm warriors, astral-reaching realm warriors were actually the most dangerous ones. Whether it was the alien races or the Elysium, there were way too many astral-reaching realm warriors. They were just like small soldiers, and in battles, the ones who would die the most would be the small soldiers. He was a bit worried. "Don't worry, Master. I, Leng Xinghan, am not someone who will just live without purpose. I will live and die with the Falling Dust Sword School. The alien races have invaded our Elysium, and they will pay with blood." Leng Xinghan's eyes were filled with killing intent. Dong Fangbai, who was usually the most gentle, also said with a serious tone, Master, you have always taught me that sword arts are for killing, not for show. This time I, Dongfang Bai, will let go of everything and fight against the alien races. Big brother. The 6 of them were fearless, filled with passion. Yichen chuckled and shook his head. Not being afraid of death is a good thing, but I do not recommend fighting to the death without retreating. When it is time to retreat, you should retreat. Only by staying alive can you kill more alien races. Plus, this great disaster will be decided by the battles between us life and death realm warriors. I will teach you your sword formation combination attack method. You guys are almost done practicing it, so use it at the critical moment. Don't attract too much attention. No one would want their disciples and siblings to die on the battlefield, and Yichen did not want that either. While training them, he would try to give them a chance to survive. Days passed by, and the time for the appearance of the extreme rank great sword was getting closer and closer. Meanwhile, the whole of Elysium was getting quieter and quieter. It was the last calm before the storm. Chapter 999. Near the dead end, on a planet that had been stained with the blood of the Dragon King, there were many figures. Cursed Demon Emperor, Lord of Fear, I, the Troll Emperor, will be the commander this time. Do you have any objections? The figures were divided into 2 camps. The larger camp was the demons. At this moment, among the 3 leading demons, there was the cursed Demon Emperor and the Lord of Fear. As for the one who spoke, it was a majestic middle-aged man with a height of 5 meters, arms and legs as thick as his eyes fell on the cursed Demon Emperor and the Lord of Fear. You can be the commander, but don't even think about ordering me. The cursed Demon Emperor seemed to be a little afraid of the majestic middle-aged man and didn't want to compete for the position of commander. Ordering you? I don't have the time for that, but it's good that you agree. Lord of Fear, what do you say? I don't care. The Lord of Fear was expressionless. If it were another demon who spoke to them like this, they would have been torn apart. The reason why they were afraid of the majestic middle-aged man was because the other party was stronger than them. No matter where they were, strength was respected. So what if you were cruel and inhumane? Even if your name could scare children to tears, in the face of absolute strength, they were inferior. The strength of the Troll Emperor was not just a little higher than theirs, but his magic power was even more vigorous and boundless. After receiving the 2's replies, the Troll Emperor nodded with satisfaction. Although the cursed Demon Emperor and the Lord of Fear were not as strong as him, it was a critical moment now. It would not be good for everyone if they fell out. Emperor Inshur, where is your senior brother, the Yin demonic emperor? The Troll Emperor asked the evil spirit camp. There was only one person leading the evil spirit. This person's face was yellow and ordinary, but his eyes were like a poisonous snake. In terms of mysteriousness, he was even more mysterious than the Yin demonic emperor. He was sealed again. Hearing the other party mention the Yin demonic emperor, Emperor Inshur frowned and said, Sealed again? Who did it? Generally speaking, seals were very difficult to remove. Only those ancient seals would become loose due to the corrosion of time. Now that the great battle was imminent, where would they have the time to unseal the Yin demonic emperor? Even if they were given 10 years, it wouldn't be enough. After all, their research on seals was inferior to humans. If I'm not mistaken, it should be Yichen, Xianhou, and the Demon Flower Emperor. Their auras are still lingering at the scene. Emperor Inshur flicked his fingernails, a mysterious killing intent appearing on his face. Yichen. The Troll Emperor had heard this name from other demons more than once. This boy was a rare genius. He was probably only 35 or 36 years old. Among the demons, 35 or 36 years old was impossible to achieve anything. I'll deal with this brat. Once I kill him, I should be able to make the others despair even faster. The Troll Emperor was very clear that Yichen had unknowingly become the symbol of Elysium, the spiritual pillar of many life and death kings. Everyone hoped for a miracle to happen to him. If he was cut off, it would undoubtedly be a huge blow to the people of Elysium. Leave that Xianhou to me. It's been a long time since I've tasted a human queen. Last time, It was completely useless, and she was played to death very quickly. The cursed demon emperor licked his lips, revealing a mouthful of yellow teeth. Death Path, a vast expanse of primal chaos. Outside the Death Path was an even more boundless starry sky. The countless stars were like diamonds. In the starry sky that was unknown how far away from the Death Path, a dense black cloud appeared. The black cloud moved faster and faster, sweeping past the stars one after another. Only after getting closer did one realize that it was not a black cloud, but a fleet of completely sealed battleships. These battleships were entirely black, looking like huge shuttles. Dazzling blue flames were surging on both sides and at the rear of the battleships. It was precisely this flame that allowed the battleships to move as fast as light, without any sound or presence. If someone were here, they would definitely recognize these battleships. Each of these battleships was extremely valuable, and there were actually hundreds of them here. Go through space. An order came from inside the battleships. Yes, connect to the space stone's energy and go through space. 10, 9, 7, E. Buzz, 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 buzz. In front of the battleships, the space twisted, forming a horizontal funnel. The battleships rapidly entered and eventually disappeared. In the void of primal chaos, countless faint multicolored lights flickered. These lights were emitted by the huge gems on the exterior of the battleships. The interior of the battleship was extremely luxurious. At the head of the battleship, there was a small conference room. Inside, a dozen demons were discussing something. This time, we demons have mobilized an army of 2 million. Sweeping through Elysium will be a cinch. At that time, all the resources inside will belong to us demons. The humans inside will also become our slaves. How much wealth would that be? You should know that human women are very popular outside. This amount of wealth is incalculable. Humans have the fastest reproduction rate. Once we sell a batch, we will immediately replenish another batch. We will never be able to sell all of them unless we sell the entire world at once. Who would be so foolish as to sell an entire world? But counting it, this is already the third inhabited world that we have conquered. This time, when we go to Elysium, I must get 100 beautiful human women to be my slaves. Everyone, don't be too happy too early. In ancient times, many races invaded Elysium. Although the people of other races in Elysium have all died, other than us demons, the evil spirit race's forces are still not weak. If we want to dominate the entire Elysium, our chances are not very high. At most, we will take 60 to 70%. The evil spirit race's forces are far inferior to us demons. Giving them 20% is already not bad. I wonder how many troops the evil spirit race will mobilize this time. In another part of the starry sky, there were also 200 battleships flying in the chaos. The demons are very powerful, so they probably won't give us a 60 to 40 split. In my opinion, it's already not bad for the evil spirit race to get 30%. No matter where the demons are, they have always been domineering. I'm just afraid that we won't even get 30%. You guys have never worked with the demons before, so you don't know how domineering they are. No way. We also mobilized 1 million troops this time. Could it be that we can only get 20%? The demons are not 4 times stronger than us, so why should they get 80%? It's still too early to talk about this now. Elysium is not easy to deal with. In ancient times, many of our races mobilized tens of millions of troops, but we still failed to conquer it. Instead, we suffered heavy casualties. It's not too late to talk about this after we conquer Elysium. What's there to be afraid of? The ancient times of Elysium are different from the modern times. Back then, they could freely enter and exit their own world. There were many experts, and they had the home ground. What about the modern times? They are extremely weak, and our evil spirit race and demons have many experts among them. It will be easy to conquer Elysium. That's true, but even a lion has to use its full strength to capture a rabbit. We can't be careless. Outside the dead end, there was a floating mountain peak. On the mountain peak, many palaces stood. Inside one of the palaces, 3 evil spirit race experts and 6 demons gathered together. Their cultivation bases were all terrifyingly high, all of them at the 5th sky of life and death realm. It should be known that outside of Elysium, the 5th sky of life and death realm was equivalent to 7-star battle power. In the blink of an eye, we've already guarded the entrance of Elysium for more than 90 years. When the 100 years is up, someone will come to replace us. 90 years is just a blink of an eye. We're very lucky. We'll be leaving in a few years, but who would have thought that it would be time for us to invade Elysium again? Yeah, Elysium has fallen, so we can take the opportunity to make some profits. The army should be here soon, right? There's no rush. It'll only be a few days later. Suddenly, the eyes of the leading demons lit up. They're here. Swish. As he spoke, his figure flickered and flew out of the palace, followed by the other 8. Unknowingly, hundreds of puppet battleships had appeared not far away from the floating mountain peak. The battleships on the right were all black, and there were 400 of them. The battleships on the left were gray, and there were 200 of them. Altogether, there were 600 battleships. Judging from the size of these battleships, each of them could carry 5,000 people. 600 battleships would be 3 million soldiers. The leading battleships opened, and dozens of people walked out. Among them, the strongest was at the 5th sky of life and death realm, while the weakest was at the 3rd sky of life and death realm. Everyone, you've worked hard. It's nothing. It's only 100 years. Although the 9 people guarding the dead end were also at the 5th sky of life and death realm, their strength was much higher than other experts at the same level. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been sent to guard the dead end. Blood Rain, I didn't expect to see you this time. You've been guarding here for more than 90 years, right? Don't worry, as long as we conquer Elysium, we'll definitely get you some treasures. I'll give you as many beauties as you want. The 2 demons seemed to be familiar with each other, and they started chatting. This time, we'll definitely win. Inside, 3 of our great demon emperors have escaped. They are Lord Troll Emperor, Lord of Fear, and Lord Cursed Demon Emperor. Evil Spirit Race has suffered a bit this time. Lord Wind Demonic Emperor has been sealed again, leaving only Lord Emperor Einshur. In the invasion of Elysium, Evil Emperor and Demon Emperor were the strongest. Each and every one of them was at the 7th sky of life and death realm. As for 8th sky of life and death realm, it was not that they couldn't come, but the key was that Elysium's suppression was too powerful. The stronger one was, the greater the suppression. 8th sky of life and death realm entering Elysium would only be a bit more powerful than 7th sky of life and death realm. Moreover, it would damage one's foundation. Therefore, apart from the ancient era, no 8th sky of life and death realm would enter Elysium. Once they died, they wouldn't even have a place to cry. After all, being killed by the enemy with one's strongest strength was better than being killed by the enemy with 2 sky of life and death realm. As for 9th sky of life and death realm, don't even think about it. 9th sky of life and death realm was very rare in every race. Not to mention the fact that they were unwilling to come. Even if they were willing, the race's higher-ups wouldn't allow them to come. Chapter 1000. Inside the dead end, puppet battleships shuttled back and forth. The dead end was the entrance to Elysium. Normally, only life and death kings could freely enter and exit. Those below the realm of life and death would be directly annihilated into nothingness. However, with the protection of the puppet battleships, the demons and evil spirits below the realm of life and death would be safe and sound. In a few blinks of an eye, all the puppet battleships arrived in Elysium's starry sky. What a powerful suppressive power! Almost at the same time, everyone felt their realm being suppressed. The 5th layer of life and death realm was suppressed to the 3rd layer of life and death realm, the 3rd layer to the 1st layer of life and death realm, and the 3rd layer to the half-step king realm, while the half-step king realm was suppressed to the peak of late sea of soul realm. The lower the realm, the smaller the suppression. For example, astral reaching realm experts were only suppressed a little. However, invading another world was not as simple as having one's realm suppressed. Because the world's yuan qi in the true spirit world was not suitable for the demon race and evil spirit race, the two races could not display their martial arts to the limit. In other words, under the same realm, their battle power was inferior to that of the outside world, and they could only display about 80% of their strength. Not good. My gate is broken. A demon king of demons yelled as the aura on his body leaked out. In the blink of an eye, his realm had dropped from the 3rd layer to the 1st layer. He was originally at the 5th layer, but after being suppressed, his realm had turned into nothingness due to his weak foundation. Even if he were to leave Elysium right now, his realm would only be below the 1st layer. As for the others, after leaving Elysium, their suppressed realm would return, and they would only need to go into seclusion for a while to recover to their peak. Mine is broken as well. There were many from the Tao sect who did not have a solid foundation. More than 40 demons had their cultivation levels plummeted, while nearly 20 evil spirit race members had their cultivation levels plummeted the most. The better ones had their cultivation levels plummeted to the bottom. Damn it, we didn't earn enough in Elysium this time. It's a big loss. A demon king's face was filled with anger. The commander of the demons creased his brows. More than 60 life and death kings of the evil spirit race had their battle power greatly reduced, and some of them had even lost more than half of their battle power. This was not a good sign. Perhaps I'm overthinking things. We, the demons, have brought 1,000 demon kings, and the evil kings of the evil spirit race have nearly 500 as well. Adding Elysium and our demons and evil spirit races experts, a mere 60 life and death kings is nothing. Who is the commander of my demons this time? Just as the puppet warship passed through the dead end and entered Elysium, a majestic voice rang out. It was as if a mighty god was speaking, and the voice was omnipresent. What a vigorous demonic power! The commander of the evil spirit race was shocked, and a bitter expression appeared on his face. The demons had 3 demon emperors in Elysium, while their evil spirit race only had 1 evil emperor. If he guessed correctly, the speaker should be the Troll Emperor. The Troll Emperor had the demonic bloodline of the demons, and his true body was extremely huge. In the same realm, his demonic power was more than 10 times that of an ordinary person. Lord Troll Emperor, I'm Blood Scythe. I'm honored to be the commander this time. The door of the leading demon's puppet warship opened, and a tall figure flew out and said respectfully, "All right, you'll still be the commander. However, the commander is me, the Troll Emperor. You'll have to listen to my orders." The Troll Emperor said without hesitation. Yes. The Blood Scythe Demon King was not surprised. He was only a temporary commander, and after arriving in Elysium, he still had to listen to the strongest. After the Troll Emperor spoke, Emperor Inshur did not want to be left behind. He asked who the commander of the evil spirit race was. Different from the Troll Emperor's mighty voice, Emperor Inshur's voice was extremely mysterious and pervasive. It was as if a venomous snake had drilled into one's ear and hissed, making one's scalp go numb. The commander of the evil spirit race was a middle-aged man with a hooked nose. He was called the Eagle Demon King. He walked out and paid his respects to Emperor Inshur. The evil altar of the evil spirit race is sealed in the number 1 king level forbidden ground of the Blood Sky continent, the Evil Mace. As long as 72 evil kings join forces to activate the summoning altar technique, the evil altar will be able to break free and be used by the evil spirit race, Emperor Inshur said. The Eagle Demon King said, "Rest assured, Lord Evil Emperor. This time, our evil spirit race has sent 500 evil kings, and there are more than 100 who are proficient in the summoning altar technique. All right, as long as the evil altar appears, we will be able to unceasingly replenish our evil power without worrying about exhausting it." Emperor Inshur smiled coldly. In Elysium, evil chi was sparse. It was fine for a short war, but for a long war, the evil altar was required to gather evil chi. Troll Emperor will be going first. I hope you can bite the hard bone that is the true spirit continent. Turning his head, Emperor Inshur said to the Troll Emperor. The Troll Emperor smiled. The true spirit continent is hard to bite, and the Sky Sword continent is not to be trifled with either. I'm just afraid that your evil spirit race will suffer a setback. The two had already come to an agreement. The evil spirit race would attack the Sky Sword continent, while the demons would attack the True Spirit continent. As for the Blood Sky continent, there were no more experts left. All the astral-reaching realm and above experts had gathered in the True Spirit continent and the Sky Sword continent. Then let's see who succeeds first. Emperor Einshur didn't care. He brought the numerous evil kings of the evil spirit race and 200 puppet battleships and left. Lord Troll Emperor, where are we going first? The evil spirit race has the evil altar, and we, the demons, also have a demonic power source. Let's go to the chaotic demon ocean first. The Troll Emperor waved his hand and said loudly, "Let's go." The chaotic demon ocean had long since been emptied. All the demonic humans had migrated away. In the depths of the ocean, a black light suddenly rushed toward the surface. Bang! Water splashed everywhere as a tall and perfect body broke out of the water. She had a long neck like a swan, a slender waist, and extremely long legs. However, she didn't give off a weak feeling. On the contrary, she seemed to be a combination of strength and beauty. Her long black hair fluttered in the wind, reaching down to her buttocks. What a pity that the demons have come. Otherwise, I would have been able to cultivate to the third layer of life and death realm. The beautiful woman raised her head and gazed at the sky. At the same time, the Troll Emperor, who was passing through the third layer of Elysium, also saw her. This aura, the Troll Emperor revealed a pensive expression. What a miracle! She actually has the bloodline of the Dark Demoness. I, the Troll Emperor, am truly fortunate. Terrifying laughter reverberated throughout the heaven and earth. The Troll Emperor made a grabbing motion, and the sky suddenly darkened. A huge demonic hand shrouded over the beautiful woman like a sky-blotting shadow. While the beautiful woman's complexion didn't change. Behind her, a pair of huge wings unfolded. They weren't bat wings, but the demonic wings, which were even more powerful and filled with power. The space shattered, and the beautiful woman's figure flickered, streaking toward True Spirit continent like a black lightning bolt. Her speed was so fast that it almost reached the level of short-distance teleportation. Where do you think you're going? The Troll Emperor roared, and the sky-blotting demonic hand chased after the beautiful woman. Unfortunately, the beautiful woman's speed wasn't much slower than the demonic hand. Adding on the fact that the further they went, the weaker the Troll Emperor's control over the demonic hand was, making it even harder for him to catch up. It's the bloodline of the Dark Demoness. The cursed Demon Emperor's eyes brightened, and his breathing quickened. If I were you, I wouldn't have any ideas about her. The Lord of Fear disdainfully glanced at the cursed Demon Emperor. You! The cursed Demon Emperor was enraged. However, when the Troll Emperor's gaze swept over, he immediately shut his mouth. The Troll Emperor's gaze was extremely vicious. As long as he said one more word, the latter would most likely tear him apart. Calming his surging emotions, the Troll Emperor coldly ordered, "Unseal the demonic power source with all your strength. I want to kill my way to True Spirit continent in the shortest time possible." Numerous demon kings dove into the seabed, heading toward the center of the demonic power ripples. True Spirit continent, falling dust sword sect, hum. A sky-rending sword soared into the sky. A beam of crimson sword chi shot out of the sword crafting peak like a soaring dragon, circling around the peak. Master's supreme grade sword is about to be completed. On the spirit cloud peak, Dongfang Bai's face lit up. What a frightening sword intent! Lung Xinghan could feel that this sword was different from other swords. This sword was like a god of death. Merely the sword intent it emitted had the bearing of slaughtering gods and demons. With Big Brother here, Elysium will surely defeat the foreign races. Yi Xian and the rest were full of confidence in Yi Chen. In the cave beneath the sword crafting peak, Yi Chen stretched out his palm and tightly grasped the hilt of the blood-red longsword. The blood-red longsword let out a long cry, and waves of frightening sword energy were emitted. It was as if he was not holding a sword, but a bloodthirsty creature. At the same time, Yi Chen's aura expanded uncontrollably. It's finally finished. Letting out a sigh of relief, Yi Chen's gaze sharpened. The supreme grade materials used for this sword were the best in Yi Chen's possession. Apart from the most basic star iron, there was also the Death Chi iron, the Blood Demon Emperor's Blood Demon Crystal, and the supreme grade Fire Cloud Stone essence from the Fire Emperor. Of course, the most precious was the Crimson Copper essence gifted to Yi Chen by the Spirit Pill King. The Crimson Copper essence was ranked second among the top 10 miraculous metals. It had the miraculous effect of fusing all metals into one. Whether it was the star power contained in the star iron, the Death Chi contained in the Death Chi iron, the Blood Demon power contained in the Blood Demon crystal, or the fire energy contained in the Fire Cloud Stone essence, they were all fused together by the Crimson Copper essence. There would not be a chaotic feeling of power, and they were completely fused together, turning into a completely new power. Yi Chen called it the Crimson Power. You've just been born after sensing the foreign race's aura. I'll call you the Demon Slaughtering Sword. The grade of the Demon Slaughtering Sword exceeded Yi Chen's expectations. Perhaps it was because the Crimson Copper essence was truly incredible, or perhaps it was because it was completed during the foreign race's great calamity, or perhaps it was because Yi Chen had imprinted the Destruction Sword intent into the Demon Slaughtering Sword every day. The grade of this sword had exceeded the peak of the Supreme Grade. It was impressively a Supreme Grade treasure sword. Chapter 1001. Generally speaking, low Supreme Grade artifacts were ordinary Supreme Grade artifacts, mid-Supreme Grade artifacts were relatively powerful, and high Supreme Grade artifacts were extremely famous. In the future, even if Yi Chen were no longer around, he and his sword would continue to be passed down, becoming a legend. Holding the Demon Slaughtering Sword in his hand, Yi Chen could feel his sword aura instantly increase. The Destruction Sword intent contained within the sword had even fused with his own. Although it still hadn't reached the 7th step, it had already reached the limit of the 6th step, pulling away from the Immortal Sword intent by a large margin. Pouring Zhen Yuan into the sword, Yi Chen closed his eyes and entered the state of one with the sword, familiarizing himself with the sword's power. In the distance of the Fallen Dust Sword sect, a black light streaked through the sky. Swish! In the blink of an eye, the black light was still very far away, but in the blink of an eye, it had already stopped outside the sect's great protective array. The light faded, revealing a tall and beautiful woman with the demonic wings on her back. Soundlessly, an opening appeared on the great protective array. The beautiful woman's brows twitched, and without making any movements, her figure flickered and entered. Qingqing, you're out. The first to arrive was the Demon Flower Emperor. Currently, all the demonic humans in the chaotic demon ocean were in the Fallen Dust Sword sect. Yi Chen had given them 5 mountains. In any case, the Fallen Dust Sword sect had 27 mountains, so there were still a lot to spare. Master! The beautiful woman was precisely Murong Qingqing, who had been in seclusion for many years. Let me see. Impressive. You've actually reached the peak of the 2nd sky of life and death realm, the same as Yi Chen. Worthy of the Dark Demoness bloodline. The Demon Flower Emperor carefully sized up Murong Qingqing, and a happy expression appeared on his face. Adding Murong Qingqing, there were 3 people in Elysium who could condense a Dao gate. Xuanho's realm was a bit lower, at the peak of the 1st sky of life and death realm. Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing were both at the peak of the 2nd sky. I also took advantage of a loophole. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to condense a Dao gate in Elysium. Murong Qingqing was very clear that the reason she could condense the gate was not because of her talent, but because she had found a loophole. In the chaotic demonic seabed, the closer one got to the source of the demonic power fluctuations, the weaker the laws of true spirit world became. By the time she reached the source of the demonic power fluctuations, there were no longer any laws of true spirit world. Thus, she could break through to the peak of 2nd layer life and death realm in one go. Of course, this was also thanks to her Dark Demoness bloodline. If it were the Demonic Flower Emperor, she wouldn't dare approach the source of the demonic power fluctuations, fearing that she would be assimilated by the terrifying demonic power. Murong! A clear voice resounded. Murong Qingqing's body stiffened, and she raised her head. Yi Chen, with 2 swords hanging on his left waist, flew over from Sword Forging Peak. The sect protecting array was opened by him, and the way he addressed her hadn't changed for so many years. Although Qingqing called him more intimately, Murong represented the past, and also represented the difference between their relationship. Yichen. Murong Qingqing's voice was somewhat trembling. The two had been separated for so many years. Many times, she had wanted to come out of seclusion to see him. However, thinking of the great calamity of the alien races, she knew that if she didn't have enough strength, she would only be a burden. Therefore, she had forcibly endured her yearning for the day when she could fight shoulder to shoulder with him, sharing life and death together. The long years, months, and days had not diluted her feelings. On the contrary, it had deeply branded Yi Chen's image in her soul. Murong Qingqing's figure was very tall, and she had already reached the space between Yi Chen's eyebrows. Extending her hand, Yi Chen pulled her into his embrace and breathed in the fragrance of her hair. Nestled in Yi Chen's embrace, Murong Qingqing felt very at ease. The dark witch bloodline that was still somewhat uncontrollable also seemed to have calmed down a lot. Cough, cough, cough. Demon Flower Emperor turned around and coughed a few times. Yi Chen let go of Murong Qingqing and smiled. Senior Demon Flower Emperor, I and Murong haven't seen each other for many years, so I couldn't help myself. Please don't take offense. Demon Flower Emperor was a bit speechless. If not for the fact that she still had some matters to ask Murong Qingqing, she might have immediately retreated to avoid the awkwardness. Clearing her throat, she said, Qingqing, you said that the pure demonic power and demonic rules there are enough for you to advance to the third sky of life and death realm and come out early. Could it be? Murong Qingqing said with a dignified expression, yes, the demons have come. The leading demons probably already have 7-star battle strength, and their demonic power is boundless. A casual attack from them gives me a feeling that I can't block it. Dark Witch bloodline was extraordinary. In terms of cultivation, she seemed to have an extremely frightening talent. Moreover, the source of the demonic power was boundless, and its purity was comparable to the third sky of life and death realm. Because of this, she dared to say that she had full confidence in cultivating to the third sky of life and death realm. Unfortunately, she was still a step too late and couldn't make another breakthrough. The demons have come? Yi Chen wasn't surprised. With his soul power, he had long since sensed the peculiar aura fluctuations of heaven and earth. Murong Qingqing was merely confirming it. As expected. Demon Flower Emperor faintly nodded. Chaotic demonic ocean was a blessed place for demons, allowing them to replenish their demonic power at a faster rate. The reason why they abandoned it was because the demonic human clan couldn't defend it. Moreover, since Yi Chen had taken control of Elysium, the demonic human clan already had a path of retreat. Otherwise, there would only be two outcomes if they stayed there. One was to betray Elysium and join the demons, and the other was to rather die than submit and be annihilated by the demons. Neither was what the Demon Flower Emperor wished to see. If my guess is not wrong, the ones attacking True Spirit Continent should be the demons. We have to take precautions and inform everyone. In the ancient era, there had only been one main battlefield, which was the undivided True Spirit Continent. But now, there were two battlefields, the True Spirit Continent and the Sky Sword Continent. The Blood Sky Continent had been abandoned a long time ago, since it was too weak to split its power into 3 parts. Compared to the True Spirit Continent, the Blood Sky Continent was still a lot weaker. However, the Sky Sword Continent had the Sky Sword, which gathered all of the sword chi in the world. Sword artists fighting there would have the home advantage. Of course, if the demons and evil spirit race wanted to join hands to attack a continent, it would be impossible. In order to prevent such a situation from happening, everyone had spent countless materials and supreme-grade spirit stones to build several large-scale teleportation arrays on the 2 continents, which could transport them over in a split second. Yi Chen faintly nodded and said, let me see how many demonic race troops there are. Right, use your soul eyes. Demon Flower Emperor and Murong Qingqing looked at Yi Chen. Facing the direction of chaotic demonic ocean, Yi Chen's forehead suddenly split open, and a silver vertical eye appeared. In the next moment, countless phantoms appeared in Yi Chen's line of sight. As far as his eyes could see, there was a boundless ocean. Soon, Yichen saw chaotic demonic ocean. This is? Puppet battleships? Yi Chen's expression was extremely solemn. In the sky above the chaotic demonic ocean, 400 puppet battleships were floating. These puppet battleships were hundreds of meters long, and according to the scale, each battleship could accommodate 5,000 to 6,000 people. Other than that, there were 3 figures outside the battleship that attracted Yi Chen's attention. One was a majestic middle-aged man who was more than 5 meters tall, and his aura was as terrifying as the ocean. The other was a bald-headed demon with a ferocious gaze, and the ferocious aura on them was almost tangible. Due to the special nature of the soul eyes, Yichen could even see countless figures struggling within the ferocious aura, as if they were ghosts that would never be reincarnated. They were mournful and fearful. The last one was a withered, yellow-haired, extremely ugly demon. When he smiled, he revealed a mouthful of uneven yellow teeth. Without any reason, Yichen felt enmity towards this person from the bottom of his heart. Although this person's aura was not as ferocious as the bald-headed demon's, his aura was extremely vicious. What's wrong? Demon Flower Emperor saw Yichen's ugly expression and asked. Look. Yichen waved his hand. In the void, the power of space condensed, and a 5-colored light screen appeared. On the light screen, the scene Yichen saw appeared. 400 puppet battleships? This is really troublesome. Demon Flower Emperor sucked in a breath of cold air. Murong Qingqing's brows also couldn't help but crease. At that time, all her attention was on the Troll Emperor, so she didn't notice so many battleships. There's actually someone spying on us from so far away. In the chaotic demonic ocean, Cursed Demon Emperor sensed something and glanced in the direction of True Spirit Continent. Someone is spying on us. They should be using some kind of treasure, right? The Lord of Fear guessed. You're looking down on me, Cursed Demon Emperor. The Cursed Demon Emperor possessed curse power, so he was extremely sensitive to spying, and even more sensitive to hostility. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to live to this day unscathed. Evil haunting curse. Following the Cursed Demon Emperor's incantation, an incorporeal curse aura dispersed in the void, following Yichen's gaze and returning to its source. In the falling dust sword sect millions of li away, Yichen's head swayed slightly, and his soul eye's operation was immediately interrupted. Sensing his aura, the 5-colored light screen in the void shattered as well. The last scene was the Cursed Demon Emperor's eyes filled with malice, piercing straight into the depths of one's soul. If an ordinary person saw this gaze, they would immediately die of fear. Life and death kings without a strong mental state would also have endless nightmares, and their mental state would be exhausted. However, no matter how powerful the gaze was, it was not as powerful as a direct curse. Right now, Yichen was cursed. On your body. Murong Qingqing was startled. In her vision, countless evil spirits drilled out of Yichen's body. These evil spirits seemed to have taken root in Yichen's body, wanting to devour his flesh and blood. Strangely, Murong Qingqing could see it, but the Demon Flower Emperor couldn't. What a powerful curse power! Yichen activated the Destruction Sword Intent and Immortal Sword Intent, but it was hard to remove them. This curse power had already reached a certain level, and it was almost impossible to save the victim. Holding the demon slaughtering sword with his right hand, Yichen slightly pulled it out. A gust of wind rose as a frightening sword intent exploded from Yichen's body. The formless curse power was immediately shaken out, turning into nothingness. Chapter 1002. The curse is gone. The cursed demon emperor could clearly sense that he had lost control of the ghost haunt curse. Curses were illusory and untraceable. The only thing that could remove curses was martial will. Soul power attacks were useless. Of course, apart from martial will, there were also some special treasures that could remove curses. Do you know who it is? The Lord of Fear asked. It's Yichen, and there's a human demon with the Dark Witch's bloodline beside him. With the feedback of the curse power, the cursed demon emperor already knew who was spying on him. This demon can actually use my gaze as a channel to transmit the curse. Even with my destruction sword intent and immortal sword intent, it's difficult to remove it at once. Only by combining it with the sharp aura of the Demon Slayer sword can it be effective. Yi Chen's expression was very serious. He was not afraid of the opponent's curse, but it didn't mean that others were not. If the opponent was allowed to use it in a battle, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even if this kind of person's strength hadn't reached the 7-star level, his threat had already reached the 7-star level. Such a powerful curse? Although the Demon Flower Emperor didn't see the image of the ghost haunt just now, he could sense that Yi Chen was filled with an ominous aura. Murong Qingcheng frowned and said, "Although I don't really understand the principle of the curse, my Dark Witch's bloodline is very sensitive in this aspect. The way the curse spreads seems to be through telepathy." Yes and no. Yi Chen shook his head and said, "Telepathy is only an external phenomenon. To be more precise, curses are soul poisons that take root in the soul. There is a saying, believe it, don't believe it, don't have it. Once the curse takes root in the soul, your subconscious will believe it to be true, even if you say you don't believe it. As for the ways of transmission, there are many. As long as there is a slight connection, there is a chance of being cursed. For example, eye contact, body contact. Some people are cursed without even knowing it, but it will still be a horrifying disaster, because their souls have already sunk into it without them knowing. The human world was a big dye vat, and the soul was full of dust. One day, when the soul was crystal clear and free from the dust, there would be no disasters and the so-called curses would be nothing more than floating clouds. It was naturally impossible for Yi Chen's soul to reach this level, so he had to rely on his sword intent to expel it. This devil must be the first to die. Yi Chen's eyes flashed with a fiery killing intent. He was sure that if he didn't kill the cursed demon emperor first, Elysium would fall completely. "I'll help you." Murong Qingcheng also felt that the threat of the cursed demon emperor was far greater than the other demons. The demon's invasion into Elysium was no longer a secret. All the astral-reaching and above martial artists knew about it. Ocean gazing was a very small region on the border of eastern and southern regions. Nowadays, the ordinary people who had been living in ocean gazing for generations had all migrated away. Those who remained were basically astral-reaching experts and Sea of Soul Realm experts. Every day, a large number of astral-reaching experts and Sea of Soul Realm experts would rush over. The reason why so many astral-reaching and Sea of Soul Realm martial artists were gathered here was because this place would become a battlefield that would decide the future of Elysium. The true spirit continent was incomparably vast. If the demons wanted to take over the continent, they wouldn't be able to kill wherever they went. A mere 2 million army would be nothing more than a drop of water in the ocean. Even if they killed until the next year, they wouldn't be able to kill all the high-level martial artists of the continent. Therefore, as long as the continent decided to set the battlefield as the ocean gazing, the demons would definitely do so. Since the ancient times, the battles between Elysium and the alien races would always be set in one place. If one side was defeated, the battlefront would be stretched out until it covered the whole world. "Lynch, let's see who can kill more demons this time." On top of a small hill in the ocean gazing, dozens of people were gathered. These people were from the Windy Nation, and they were not very old. Judging from their appearance, they didn't seem to be more than 30 years old. The one who spoke was Qin Haoran from the Falling Dust Sword Master. His current cultivation had already reached the second level of Life and Death Challenge. In the entire Windy Nation, besides the only Life and Death Realm warrior, Yi Chen, there was only one other person who could compete with him, and that was North Snow Martial School's Lynch. "If it is a battle, I might not be able to beat you. But in terms of killing, you are not as good as me," Lynch said with his arms crossed in front of his chest. "Hee, that might not be the case." Zhang Haoran laughed. "Hey, you two, don't treat us like we don't exist. After all, I used to be stronger than you too." Lu Hanshan, who was standing next to North Snow young Master Su Wen, said helplessly. "How old are you? Why are you still fighting for this?" Not far away, Zhu Mei, who was talking with a couple of women, teased her husband. The two had been married for many years. Even if they were to die, they would die together. There was no reason for them to risk their lives for others while they hid in a corner and tried to survive. Of course, there were people like that. But these cowards would live in the shadows for the rest of their lives. They would lose their dignity and the essence of a martial artist. Brother Zhang, let's have a battle as well. Let's see if you can kill more Sea of Souls realm demons or I can kill more astral reaching realm demons. Yi Xian walked over with a smile on his face. Zhang Haoran shook his head and said with a bit of worry, I really don't know why your brother would let you come. As a second-level life and death challenge warrior, Zhang Haoran had the ability to protect himself, so he would not be killed in a short period of time. On the other hand, Yi Xian was only at early astral reaching realm, which could be considered as cannon fodder. Allowing Yi Xian to come would not be a big deal, but Yi Xiaoxiao had also come. This little girl had never killed anyone before, so she was very kind. Yi Xian said seriously, my brother said that without the determination to die, there is no hope of winning. Hearing him, everyone on the hill went silent. Indeed, since the demons dared to come, they must have a high chance of winning. If they did not have the determination to die, then they should not have come. They were just talking and laughing before to relieve the pressure. The determination to die? The former Emerald Prince, Zhuang Fei, raised his head and looked at the sky. Yi Chen, the little genius from back then, had left him behind since a long time ago. However, as time went by, he had matured and forgotten a lot of things. He believed that Yi Chen had forgotten him as well. Originally, they would not have any interaction in this life. However, this battle had connected them together because they were both fighting for Elysium. Leader, why don't we also compete to see who can kill more people? On the side, the former Palm Absolute, Lu Wuxiang, smiled and said to Zhuang Fei. Sure. Zhuang Fei also smiled, his face glowing. Isn't that Sister Ji? Lu Wuxiang's gaze fell on the corner of the hill. There, a lonely figure was standing there. It was the former disciple of the Emerald Martial Palace, Ji Xuan. She had left the Emerald Martial Palace a long time ago, and no one knew where she went. Don't disturb her. Perhaps she just wants to see someone. Maybe she just wants to free herself. Zhuang Fei shook his head, stopping Lu Wuxiang from going over to greet her. Smiling bitterly, Lu Wuxiang did not go over. Zhang Haoran, Luo Hanshan, Zhu Mei and the others also saw Ji Xuan. They all knew about the things that happened between Yi Chen and Ji Xuan. They could only sigh at the impermanence of the world. This child, after so many years, she is still alone. Yi Tianhao and Shen Yuqing also came. Shen Yuqing's heart skipped a beat, and he couldn't help but walk over. Snow Goose. Shen Yuqing reached out his hand and gently held Ji Xuan in his arms. Ji Xuan didn't struggle. She said with a trembling voice, Aunt Qing. Good girl, I thought I would never see you again. Shen Yuqing couldn't help but shed tears. Raising her head, Ji Xuan's eyes were wet. Don't you blame me? You are still young. Speaking of which, your mother and I are also at fault. We shouldn't have arranged the engagement between you and Chen Er. If we didn't do that, you and Chen Er might have ended up together instead. Back then, Shen Yuqing was indeed very angry. He felt that Yi Chen had been humiliated. However, as time went by, all that was left were the beautiful memories. Speaking of which, Ji Xuan wasn't a bad person. She just did something inappropriate at the wrong time. There was no reason for her to carry that burden for the rest of her life because of one mistake. Aunt Qing, I have already thought it through. You don't have to worry about me. Ji Xuan smiled. Her eyes were a little absent-minded. In her mind, images of Yi Chen kept appearing. She never knew that a 14 or 15-year-old boy could be so mature. In front of him, she was so childish. Perhaps it was because of this that she couldn't let go? It's good that you have thought it through. Everything is in the past. Now let's fight for Elysium together. More and more high-level warriors gathered at the ocean-gazing region. Although they weren't gathered together, waves of powerful aura still caused the clouds in the sky to change. Many of Yi Chen's acquaintances had arrived. Tuo Baku, Li Daoxian, Bing Ling, Yan Qihua, Li Xiaoyan and Jing Aoshuan from the Southern Region Martial Tea Gathering, Hai Weia from the Sky Martial region, as well as some people who had grudges with Yi Chen, such as Si Kongsheng. There were too many of them. They had witnessed Yi Chen's growth, and they had interacted with Yi Chen for a period of time. Whether it was grudges or hatred, everyone had temporarily forgotten about it. Right now, they were all fighting for Elysium, fighting for themselves. Buzz. In the sky, the figures of life and death kings started to appear. 1, 2, 3, more and more life and death kings appeared. Below, everyone's gazes couldn't help but fall on them. The final outcome of this battle would still be decided by the life and death kings. If the life and death kings of Elysium lost, then no matter how they struggled, they would not be able to escape the fate of being enslaved. Buzz. 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 Another 3 figures appeared, standing in front of all the life and death kings. The one in the middle seemed to have become the center of the world the moment he appeared, because everyone was paying attention to him. Even the life and death kings were no exception. He was very young, only in his early 20s. However, unknowingly, he had become the spiritual pillar of Elysium. His legendary glory made him have no choice but to shoulder the pressure of the entire world. He was Yi Chen. Chapter 1003. Yi Chen, I didn't expect that we would have the chance to fight side by side. Following Yi Chen's arrival, the kings of the younger generation appeared one after another. The one who spoke was a green-robed young man with a pair of sharp and narrow eyes and a hint of evilness. Lu Wujian, long time no see. Yi Chen smiled faintly. This person was none other than Lu Wujian of West Ocean Sword Sect. Of course, he was no longer West Ocean Sword Sect, but West Ocean Sword King. Unfortunately, Snow Sword of Gojoseon is in Sky Sword Continent. Otherwise, I'd like to see who is the second sword artist of this era. Lu Wujian had already given up on the idea of competing with Yi Chen. It was not because he had lost his fighting spirit, but because he felt that he was biting off more than he could chew. Whether it was Snow Sword of Gojoseon or Star Sword King, they were both stronger than him, not to mention Sword King Yi Chen, who was at the peak of his power. West Ocean Sword King, with your current strength, you are still quite lacking compared to Snow Sword of Gojoseon. In the distance, Chu Zhongtian flew over with a domineering aura and laughed heartily. Oh, so it's Celestial Dipper King. Lu Wujin turned his head and sized up Chu Zhongtian. The most famous person in Elysium right now was naturally Yi Chen. Below Yi Chen were the 4 kings of the new generation. These 4 kings were Dugu Blade King Duguju, Snow Sword of Gojoseon Yi Shuehan, Celestial Dipper King Chu Zhongtian, and Bright Moon King Dantai Mingyue. Among them, Duguju's title was the surname of Dugu clan. Yi Shuehan's Marquis Sword Snow had changed from Marquis to King. Chu Zhongtian's previous title was Astral Spirit Son, but he didn't like his king title being Astral Spirit King, so he changed it to Celestial Dipper King. As for Dantai Mingyue's title, she took her own name. The 4 kings weren't a collective name. They only represented the first tier's new generation kings. Below the 4 kings were the second tier's new generation kings. There were quite a few of them, such as Star Sword King Wei Tianxian, Sword Formation King Bu Qingyun, Blue Phoenix King Yen Fengfeng, White Snow King Bai Wuxue, Wild Goose Sword King Lu Xiaoyu, West Ocean Sword King Lu Wujian, Sky King Jiang Tian, Demonic Blade Queen Lan Sanmei, and so on. There were simply too many of them. The first tier only had 4, while the second tier had more than 30. As long as they were geniuses who had entered the life and death realm in recent years, they would all be in these 2 tiers. Celestial Dipper King Chu Zhongtian was someone Lu Wujian didn't put in his eyes at all. However, he didn't expect that the higher his realm, the more frightening his battle strength would be. From being inconspicuous at the beginning, he had now become one of the 4 kings. Perhaps only Elysium's unrivaled Yi Chen could compare to him. Well said. Chu Zhongtian's red hair was eye-catching like a blood-colored flame. Swish, swish. Just as the 2 were talking, the white-haired Duguju and the moon-white-gowned Dantai Mingyue arrived together. After entering the life and death realm, Duguju was brimming with a frightening aura that kept strangers away. However, his eyes were clear and translucent, like a pair of blue waves. They were like a long and narrow blade that had just been washed in ice water, flickering with a cold light without any impurities. Anyone who came into contact with this cold light would immediately feel their soul being sliced apart. Dan Tai Mingyue, on the other hand, didn't have this kind of sharp aura. She was like the omnipresent moonlight, gentle and bright, not giving off any pressure. At the same time, no one could sense her specific location. It was as if she herself was condensed from moonlight and had no physical form. Dugaju, it seems like you've already made your preparations. Yi Chen glanced at the two of them. Naturally. This battle will be very bitter. Any one of us can die. I hope you won't be careless. Dugaju was very powerful, but compared to Chu Zhongtian, Dugaju was more likely to die. This was because Chu Zhongtian possessed the evil spirit body, which gave him an extremely powerful physical defense. His protective astral yuan was also not something ordinary people could break. Yi Chen didn't wish for Dugaju to die in this battle, which would be a huge loss for Elysium. Many thanks for the reminder. Although I've already made up my mind to die, anyone who wants to kill me will have to pay with their lives. Dugaju could sense Yi Chen's sincerity, and his expressions softened somewhat. Next, Sky King Jiang Tian also came. Speaking of which, Jiang Tian and the Air Emperor all had some grudges with Yi Chen, but Yi Chen didn't care about it anymore. This was not only because of the impending battle, but also because there was no need to care about those small grudges, as long as they didn't provoke him in the future. Yi Chen, the woman standing with Auntie has been looking at you. Murong Qingqing said to Yi Chen. I know. With Yi Chen's sensitivity to gazes, how could he not notice Ji Shuiyan? The past is like smoke, gone with the wind. Do you want to know who she is? Yi Chen didn't tell her about this. I don't want to know. Murong Qingqing smiled and shook her head. Let's hope she can survive. After thinking for a while, Yi Chen silently flicked his finger toward Ji Shuiyan. A bean-sized blue crystal shot into Ji Shuiyan's forehead at a speed that even his soul power couldn't detect. On top of the small mountain, Ji Shuiyan seemed to be in a daze. She felt as if something had appeared in her mind, but nothing seemed to have happened. In the end, she thought it was because of the pressure. The size of the sea gazing was much smaller than the South Ridra region. It was no more than 2 million miles wide, which was equivalent to the size of a few big countries. As time passed, more and more high-level warriors gathered at the sea gazing. From hundreds of thousands, it had increased to nearly 1 million. It was a sea of people. Meanwhile, the number of life and death kings in the sky had also exceeded 500. On the true spirit continent, there were about 100 human kings alone. Adding the newly added human kings in the recent years, there were about 120 of them. The Blood Sky continent's human kings had been divided. A small portion had entered the Sky Sword continent, and the remaining 2/3 had arrived at the true spirit continent. As for the human kings from the ocean, there were about 50 of them. Altogether, there were about 200 of them. These were the human kings. The beast kings had more than 300 of them. More than 500 life and death kings and nearly 1 million astral reaching and sea of soul realm warriors were a frightening force. However, Yi Chen knew that compared to the demon race army, it was still too little. Each of the 400 puppet battleships could carry about 5,000 demons. Adding them together, it would be an army of 2 million, which was twice as much as the previous one. In the war between nations, it was not a myth to win with a small number. A sneak attack might be able to take out a large portion of the enemy's strength. However, in the war between high-level warriors, it was almost impossible to win with a small number. Trying to sneak attack would be suicide. Therefore, they could only fight fair and square, using blood to pave the way for their teammates. The young kings and the old kings all looked toward the southwest with a solemn expression. That was the direction the demon army would be coming from. 1 day passed, and no one had touched a drop of water. 2 days passed. 3 days passed. The 4th day, the first to arrive were not the demons, but 2 life and death kings. If the demons want to occupy the true spirit continent, they'll have to ask me, jailer, first. The aura of these 2 was incomparably powerful, much more powerful than even Su King. Master. Prison King's face revealed an ecstatic expression. This person was none other than the leader of the prison gate, jailer. He himself had also inherited Jailer's legacy. At the same time, some very old life and death kings recognized the two. Of these two, the tall and sturdy old man was the once glorious figure of the prison gate, Jailer, and the white-haired old man was the leader of the Void Gate, Void Ancestor. When they faded out of sight, it was said that they already had 6-star battle strength. Hundreds of years had passed, and their strength had not improved at all. Great! With the return of Void Ancestor and Jailer, our overall strength has increased by a lot. Through word of mouth, everyone came to know the two's identity. Especially when they found out that these two already had 6-star battle power hundreds of years ago, they were all extremely excited. It should be known that among them, apart from Yi Chen, who was extremely unfathomable, there was almost no one with 6-star battle power. This was what made them feel the most despair. Now that they had two such powerful kings, how could they not be happy? 6-star battle strength? Yi Chen looked over. In fact, everyone knew that he was not the only one with 6-star battle strength. In the past few years, Xianhou had made enormous progress. Apart from spending some of her energy on seals, she spent most of her energy on increasing her strength. Adding her realm, which had reached the peak of the first layer of life and death realm, her battle strength had already reached 6-star. Apart from that, Murong Qingqing, who had reached the peak of the second layer of life and death realm and had the bloodline of dark which also had 6-star battle strength. This point had been personally verified by Yi Chen. Moreover, Yi Chen didn't believe that Su King hadn't made any progress in the past few years. In a few years, Yi Chen's strength could increase by more than 10 times. For Su King to increase by 2 or 3 times wouldn't be surprising. As for the other titled monarchs with high-grade 5-star battle strength, they should also have close to 6-star battle strength. Yi Chen didn't know the exact strength of Duguju, Chu Zhongtian, and Dantai Mingyue. However, from the strength they had displayed recently, he could tell that they were all high-grade 5-star battle strength. After all, they had been in Life and Death Realm for a year or two. When Yi Chen entered Life and Death Realm, he was able to defeat Su King within a year. These people's talent was only slightly inferior to his. Moreover, they were all preparing for a great battle. You're Yi Chen? Void Ancestor sized up Yi Chen at the front. Not bad. Yi Chen faintly nodded. Very good. There's finally a peerless character among the younger generation. There's still hope for this war. Void Ancestor was the previous generation's Void Sect Master, and his eyesight was extremely sharp. However, he couldn't see through Yi Chen. This meant that the latter's strength was not inferior to his, and might even surpass him. This kid can't be underestimated. Jailer also noticed that Yi Chen was different from the masses. From the fact that he could stand at the front without anyone questioning him, it was clear that everyone was convinced of his strength. This girl doesn't seem simple. Shifting their attention from Yi Chen, their gazes fell on Murong Qingqing. Just as they were about to speak, a layer of black suddenly appeared in the horizon. It was a huge puppet battleship. As the puppet battleship appeared, a suffocating aura swept over. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.